and my special guest today is fellow Liverpoolian, musician, singer, songwriter, and unbelievable George Harrison impersonator in the fantastic show, the Fab Four, the Ultimate Tribute, Mr. Gavin Pring. Welcome.
Hello, Joe. Thanks for having me on your show.
How's California?
I don't know. I've been locked up since March, so it looks sunny right now. How's it over there in Texas?
It's picking up a bit, I know different states are opening different times and they've got different rules and stuff. We've been open since October, so I'm back on the old river walk. Yeah, as you say, different states, what's going on at the moment. So this is Mr. Gavin Pring. Let's start from the beginning here. Tell us how you started out performing back home in Liverpool. And did you start out doing the George Harrison tribute thing in the beginning?
I actually didn't. I started, an uncle of mine, Uncle Les, said to me, you can either do cover versions, but then you'll be doing cover versions for the rest of your life, or you can start doing original songs as soon as you can learn a few chords. Most songs are 4 or 5 chords at most anyway, so as soon as you get 4 or 5 under your belt, you already can start writing songs. So I started writing songs straight away, and got a kind of signed to a management deal with a guy called Gary Christian from a Liverpool band called the Christians. So Gary Christian.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
played one of the tracks last week, Ideal World. Loved that song.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing tune.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see Gary in the black and white in the middle of Formby Beach or somewhere. That's right. Gary was our manager for a while.
I didn't know that. How long was you performing in Liverpool?
I was only performing there for a little while before whenever I did like my original stuff, someone would say, or the beer review saying, these guys hail from Liverpool, and you'd swear the lead guitarist is a direct descendant of George Harrison. So that kind of started to crop up, because we were into Oasis and stuff with the big bands. I mean, Oasis were around in 92, 93.
Yep.
I started gigging around 95, 96. So they were already on the way. And we like those big-bodied kind of Gibson 335s and the Sheraton-looking big-bodied guitars, the jazz-looking guitars. And so I looked like George holding a Gretsch, I suppose, and that's kind of what piqued my interest in starting to do this.
So your journey from Liverpool to the USA, you arrived in America and performed in Chicago's British Export and toured the Midwest, played the early years of Abbey Road on the River when it was based in Cleveland. So what's your story leaving Liverpool and coming to the States?
I was offered a job over in South Korea with British Export, and they said we need a George for a month run for Hyundai. We're doing like these theaters. They own like 10 or 12 theaters all over South Korea. So and they're kind of like McDonald's, kind of like you open up the book. Yep. And you can plant a McDonald's anywhere. It's kind of like this with the Hyundai buildings over there. Every 10th floor on all the buildings are set up the same. The first floor is electronics, second floor is groceries, whatever. And then the 10th floor is always a theater. So we did a tour of these amazing theaters for the first month. And then the guy who owned British Export, Jim Martin, said, do you want to come and play over in the States? So I was like, yeah, do I stay in rainy Liverpool or do I, go over to the States? And that's kind of a dream for all of us too, Scousers especially. We love being from Liverpool, but we want to see the world, So that's kind of like why I said, yeah, I'd seen South Korea and I loved it over there. And I was like, I'll give America a go. And it was a very simple, I didn't know where it was going to end up. Yeah. Every time you got a decision, it was just to make that decision. Do you want to come to Chicago? And I was like, yeah, right then. So.
I know, especially in our business, it depends how ambitious you are, and if you're writing on, or you're a songwriter like myself and stuff. And we all did the clubs for years in Liverpool, and it's a really good training ground, Liverpool, for any musician. I went through it, you went through it. The clubs, the pubs, they'll tell you how it is there. You make no bones about it. But like myself, you've got that little dream of what you want to see the world, you want to travel, and it's in some of us. It's not in all of us, but I know what you mean. But Liverpool made us, that's our city. I was back home just over a year ago. I had a great time, seeing everybody again. So let's move on and tell us, how did you come to join the Fab Four?
So I was my tenuation with British Export was kind of over because I'd been offered work back in England again, and it wasn't really going anywhere because I was playing in the summer when it was busy, because Chicago has great summers but it has terrible winters. Yeah. And so every winter I would go back to Liverpool and work in the shop again. So just before I was heading back, to see what was happening in Liverpool again. I got a message from the Fab Four. They were auditioning people to play in Vegas. And they said, we've seen you, and you're already... Luckily, I was in America because they wouldn't have reached out to me if I was in England. So they were like, well, you're already here, come on over. So I went over to Vegas, and I didn't have any money. One of the vivid memories for auditioning for the Fab Four was that I came over and I had $3. That's all I had in my back pocket. And when I arrived, the owner and manager president of the Fab Four, Ron McNeil, came down the steps, and I had all these bags and suits and everything, and I didn't have a little trolley to put them on, or as Americans would say, a cart. And he goes, hey, why didn't you get a cart? And I made an excuse. Well, I couldn't afford the cart. The cart was $5. I only had $3, but I didn't want to tell him that I only had $3. So he just went and slapped that $5 in like it was nothing, bling, and got the trolley or the cart. Do I speak English or American, Joe? What should I do? And so they came over he came over with the cart, and I put everything on it, and then I went and auditioned, and then I never ever really left them after that. It was a handshake deal. Do you want to join us? Yeah, go on. Yeah. It was years later. I realized that I could learn a lot from the guys. They were really, really good at listening to the Beatles. And whereas me and you grew up as buskers, you said it right. When you grow up in Liverpool, you have to a little bit be a stand-up comic. You have to
be ready for anything.
Backwards and forwards. Yep.
Yeah, especially starting out as a kid, it's frightening when you're on stage in Liverpool. You don't get clapped after the song. You're expecting all this. When I was 14, 15, I'm like, what do I do now? What am I going to do now? But that's Liverpool, But it actually molds you, doesn't it, Liverpool? It really does.
It makes you tougher skin.
It does.
You have a tough skin for stuff. The first time I had a pint in Liverpool, some guy was kind of taking the mickey, really, extracting the urine. And I was already too young to be in the pub. It was the one on the Dock Road. I don't know if it's there anymore. It's called the Atlantic.
Oh yeah, I've played the Atlantic. Yeah, it's actually recently just got knocked down. Only recently.
Oh,
that's such a shame because that's such a legendary pub in Liverpool. That's where you had your first pint in the Atlantic.
I was like 16, and couldn't even grow a beard, and went into the Atlantic pub, and some guy at the bottom of the bar was like, busting me balls, as Americans would say. He was like, hey, he can't even grow any hairs on his, on his face or his ass or whatever, So he was taking the mickey out of me, but I fought back a little bit, and I was like, well, at least I'm not like, qualifying for an AARP kind of, vibe. Like he was old and I was young, so I was taking the piss out of him.
Yeah.
But eventually he had the whole, because he had the experience, you know what I mean? So he had all the whole place was laughing at this battle of wits, and I was like dejected. I was like, oh, well, I better leave. But he sent me a pint over and said, nice one, lad. Like he kind of, I got the thumbs up. Even I fought, I may have lost, but it definitely kind of prepares you to fight a little.
Let me tell the listeners this. As we all know, there are so many Beatles tribute bands all over the world. I remember the Matthew Street Festival back home, which you've played, I've played. You'd see the Russian Beatles, the Japanese Beatles, the Argentine Beatles. But I just want to make sure the listeners know this. But your show really is unique. And I've been in the audience a number of times, witnessed it. It's packed not only with the musical talent, you're all amazing, to where it's scary to watch, if you know what I mean. Because it's like, it's eerie at times, I'm like, wow. Apart from that, the comedy in the show too, with the Ed Sullivan character, not only introduces you guys, but makes appearances throughout the night. And of course, the different images throughout the years, the costume changes. It really is a unique show. And I've seen, and I suppose everybody's seen many Beatles tribute bands, but the work that's gone into your show really is. And to be in the audience, it's mesmerizing. It really is. The musical talent, the comedy, the writing that's gone into it. But hats off to you guys, and that's why you are what you are. I just want the listeners to know we're not just interviewing here another Beatle tribute band. This is such a unique show. And other achievements outside of the show itself. I mean, the band starred as the Beatles in the motion capture remake of Yellow Submarine when you were commissioned to cover the performance segments of the movie. You won an Emmy for the PBS television performance special. So talk us through that, the Emmy, the PBS special.
Well, the PBS came on the back of a lot of bad luck. We were in 2008, 2009-ish. We'd split with our other, we'd kind of split into two. There was another team, and, they didn't have any rights to the Fab Four, the name, or, the way that we set up the show and stuff like that. But anyway, we had a big disagreement with those guys, and we had to go to court. I remember my mum saying, if you're going to go to America, get ready and be, what is it? If you're going to be successful in America, prepare for a lawsuit, So it's like, I did come over, like, not thinking that would happen. But anyway, we were kind of like, we'd spent a lot of money on the lawsuit, spent a lot of money protecting our name. And, so 2011-ish, we got approached, do you guys want to do something? Rain, who was another tribute act, their PBS special had come out They're a great band. We know those guys too.
Yeah.
And they have a different take on the Beatles than we do. It's all related to the Beatles. But they had their PBS special had come out 6 or 7 years before. So they were like, well, it's time for another band to maybe step in and do a PBS special. So we did it. And, we just did it was kind of like me being in Vegas with the last of me money, there was the last bit of money for the Fab Four, and we invested it all into the PBS special. Not knowing whether it would be picked up or not, but, we abided by the guidelines. The lighting in the audience had to be like 40 or 50% in the audience, which is weird because if you go to see a show, the light's not on you, it's on the audience. But for shots of the audience, they need to see the audience reactions and stuff. So it came at a good time. And then after that, we didn't expect it. I mean, it's got millions and millions of hits worldwide. And, and then people could see that we were a little different to everyone else because we actually resemble them. A lot of Beatles tribute acts don't resemble the guys, and we do. We've got like if you categorize each of the characters, we're at over 90% of each musical ability, look, sound, dress like your body look.
So apart from the band and stuff, you are a singer-songwriter too. Let's play the first track today, but before we do, I want you to talk us through it. It's a song called Do What You Love, inspiring, positive title. Tell us about this song.
Originally written in Liverpool just before I left. I was actually annoyed at my brother because what happened was my mum, we were a single parent family. So my mum, if we didn't do any dishes or any washing or anything like that, my mum would have to do it all after work. So she was going on vacation with a fella. And she says to me, you both got to do the dishes when I'm away. I don't want to come back to a load of dishes. So I was like, all right. But then I ended up being like my mum. I was doing the dishes and having a go at my brother. I was like, I'm always doing the dishes. And so I wrote a song out of frustration. It was called Do the Washing Up, directed at my brother. And then a couple of years later, when I joined the Fab Four, I was just going over it. And I didn't know anyone was in the theatre. I had the whole theatre to myself. And the sound guy said, I really like that song, Do What You Love.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's a better title. So I rewrote the lyrics to include Do What You Love because only Scousers would get Do the Washing Up.
I'm still doing the washing up.
Still doing the dishes.
Yeah. Let's hear the song. This is Do What You Love, Mr. Gavin Pring.
mind. Try to remember being yourself for a while. I'll just leave you my cup and leave too. I'll just leave you my cup and leave too. I'll just leave you my cup, leave you too. Do what you love, do what you love, do what you love.
Great song, Do What You Love. Very George, but that's cool. Also very Gavin Pring, because that is your style. You bring that George Harrison Beatlesque feel to your original music.
That's what I've been told, yeah. Because even my wife said sometimes when I go to like a bridge or a middle eight, she's like, "That's what I imagine George would have put there," you know. And so I've always had an inkling or a likening to him ever since I was a kid. Majors to minors, C to C7.
I was just going to say a lot of really nice chord changes, very effective chord changes, nice melodies, and as I say, that that's your style, and it's not, even though you do George Harrison in the Fab Four, your original music, bit of an influence there, but they're your songs, the Gavin Pring songs for sure.
Well, I grew up like kind of an 80s child. I mean, as far as, I was like, 16 and 92 or whatever. So I had being a little kid in the 80s, and and I gravitated in the 80s to hooks when a song had a hook, and so Squeeze and kind of David Bowie and and Crowded House, songs that had an anthem. That's why I like Oasis so much, something that everyone can sing. And that's what I gravitate to. So I want a part in every song where there's a la 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 la, something that people can sing. I throw away the kind of the deep cut ones, which I'm sure lots of people do, like album tracks where they kind of like have to discover stuff for ages. And I don't write that way. I've got a few songs kind of similar to that, but for me, it's about the hook. Squeeze is tempted by the fruit of another. Yeah. There's something that grabs people, and something that, and that's just the way I grow up. So the George thing is probably, since I've been playing a lot of his songs professionally, have probably crept in as I've gone along.
That's bound. Crowded House for sure. Beatle influence, a lot of Beatle influences in Crowded House and stuff, and of course Oasis as well. You're talking about the biggest band in the world. Who's not influenced by the Beatles?
The people that don't like the Beatles want to write songs that are not Beatlesque so that they can be not like the Beatles. In other words, they've been influenced by the Beatles again.
Now, talk about Small World, Gav. The first time I met you was at Waxy O'Connor's, San Antonio Riverwalk. And you and two of the guys from the show came in after your show, and I was playing my gig. And I remember Phil Bentley, the owner, coming over to me. I said, when you take a break, you got to meet these guys. And when you introduce yourself, your last name set off alarm bells for me. So you're from Liverpool, Pring, unusual name. Turns out I played in a duo with your uncle Steve Pring for over 5 years in the 90s in Liverpool. I was also a friend of your father, Les, and now he was a character, let me tell you. Yeah, so I couldn't believe. Yeah, the night I met you, I'm like, Pring, that's an unusual name. Then when we got talking, I'm like, wow, what a small world. That was unbelievable that night. Yeah, and me and your Uncle Steve, we used to use the old digital audio tape, the DAT backing tracks. And what we'd do, we'd have keyboards, bass and drums on the DAT tape. and we'd have 2 guitars and 2 vocals live. So you listen to click tracks at the beginning to start your songs. And I always remember we used to cover My Brave Face, the McCartney. My brave, my brave, my brave face. Me and your Uncle Steve, your dad would show up now and again. Few drinks, sit right in the front. And the click was only a hi-hat, so it was tss, 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 tss. And we're, my brave, my brave. And all we're going by is tss, tss, doom, doo, doo, doo. So we get that wrong. And your dad knew what he was doing. Les would sit right in the front, and Steve would be living. So before we even press play on the DAT tape, he'd be at the front, my brave, my brave, my brave, then burst out laughing every time. He knew what he was doing, you know. I'm sure you know the story of him in the Royal Court Theatre impersonating Bruce Foxton from the Jam. You know that story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
the look is uncanny. You know, I've got a dad who looks like the bass player from the Jam, and then I look like George Harrison from the Beatles. I mean, Nan looks like Elvis, so, you know, we've got them all covered.
Jerry Hogan was with you that night, who has since sadly passed away, and he played Ed Sullivan not only in your show at the time, but also in the Pulp Fiction movie. In the restaurant scene, he was in Pulp Fiction, right? Yeah, such a nice guy.
Yeah, I miss Jerry every day. You know, it's funny because he got when he first did Pulp Fiction, they used to give him a lot of you know, they give him checks, and the checks would be big at the beginning, but as it got like, you know, less people watched it, his checks would get smaller and smaller until there was a revival, and then his checks would come back again, get like big checks. And one time he got a check from Warner Brothers for 2 cents, but he was like, I'm not going to cash it. So I said, can I have it? You know, like, I've got Jerry Hoban's 2 cents here, you know, like, so it's in my cupboard. I've got like a Warner Brothers Pulp Fiction, you know, Ed Sullivan check for 2 cents. So I was like, that's what Warner Brothers is. They're trying to give you their 2 cents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I love Jerry. That night that we met you, you know, when I go around, I've been all over the world. I've been, you know, most places. And I've been to all 50 states. I'm one of the only people that I know. Whenever I go to places, the first thing I do, and it's got easier now that we have phones, is I'll look for an Irish pub. So even when I was in South Korea before the phones, I would find Irish pubs in South Korea, which is weird because you'd have like Asian people with an Irish accent, you know, because they're getting taught by Irish people to speak English. So they would say 1, 2, 3. They say 3 instead of 3, you know. Yeah. And so what I do is I usually map, you know, I've got like on my maps, on my Google Maps, there's like flags on all these places that I've been all over the States. And so the night I went to play in San Antonio, you know, I did my usual thing. I just like looked on the map, tried to figure out where the Irish pubs were. And there was one down the road from you. I don't know the name of it. It's on a Riverwalk, but it's not Waxy's. It's like a further down.
Dirty
and I went
Nelly's.
there and it wasn't Irish enough. What was it?
Dirty Nelly's.
It wasn't Irish enough for me. Yeah. I walked in there and it was like, it didn't have that feel because I've been away from England and especially Liverpool for so long.
Yeah.
You know, there's a feeling that you're looking for when you go into a pub. It's got to have that like sawdust on the floor. Yeah. People could punch you in the face for no reason at any time, you know. And it was kind of like an image of what an Irish pub should be. So I went to Waxy's straight after, and Waxy's has just felt at home because I have a Scouser singing old Irish songs, and then I've got like, you know, I've got Jerry with me, who's my drinking partner, and it just felt like home, you know. So that's how I bumped into you. Yeah,
it was you, Jerry, and your buddy who plays. I know there's been different members through the years. It was the guy who played Ringo who was with you that night.
Oh yeah, Eric.
Okay, tell us about how you were handpicked by Cirque du Soleil in Vegas to provide motion capture as George Harrison at their 10-year anniversary of Love, which still remains the longest-running Beatles-related show on the Las Vegas Strip.
So far, it has been the longest-running Beatles show, and basically what happened was our agency got in touch with each of the members of the Fab Four and said, you know, you basically have to audition separately. You can't audition as a band because they're looking for individual people to do motion capture.
Okay.
And I have the exact same dimensions as George. I'm 5'10", 30 waist, 37 chest, 38 chest, you know what I mean? So I have the exact same dimensions. And what happened was that John and the Paul in our band didn't get it because they're small. You know, one's 5'7", the other one's 5'6" or something. So they wear heels and stuff, you know, on stage to bring the heights up and stuff.
Okay. But
they couldn't do it in the motion capture. So I got it because I auditioned with a load of other George Harrisons from other tribute acts, and they liked my impression of George, my motion, basically. I was doing the rooftop motion, and so they got in touch with me, and said, we'd like you to come. So Eric auditioned separately. They didn't know we were under the same company. So Eric got the part as Ringo, and I got the part as George. And then a friend of mine from a band called The Return got the part as John, which he has the same dimensions. And then a guy that I didn't really know got the part as Paul. And so 2 out of all the tribute acts that had auditioned were from the same band, the Fab Four, which was kind of cool. So I went up to Montreal and I filmed for 2 weeks. And then on the 10-year anniversary, they changed the show to this show. And I went down there and hung out with Bill Heckle and John Keats from the Cavern Club and saw myself, doing the motion capture. So if people say they might not have seen me, they actually have seen me. They've seen me. They just didn't know they've seen me in the Love show. So
wow,
it's great.
Also, Sir Paul McCartney himself once told you look a little bit like George, to which you replied,
"You look a little bit like Paul."
There you go. Scouse humour. 2 giants there in the industry. Let's play another track here, mate. Tell us about the song first. This is Letters from Home.
Yeah, Letters from Home was what they call a collab nowadays, collaboration between myself and our old lead singer, Greg McVeigh. I was in a band called Grass Soup. That was the band Gary Christian was the manager of.
Okay.
And, I woke up with a melody line, a lot like Paul McCartney with Yesterday. I had like kind of a riff in my mind, and then I got the acoustic guitar that was next to the bed, and I kind of worked out what the chords were, and then I went round to everyone, has anyone heard this song? Anyone heard the song? They said no. And so I put it together, and the only thing I was missing, I had a bit of a melody, but I was missing lyrics, and Greg just went into the kitchen, and he just wrote the lyrics within like a minute and came back and said, right, I've got this. And we didn't have a chorus really, and we wrote the chorus together. And now, years later, the version that you're hearing now is actually just all these songs are from my little studio. So they could be mixed better, they could be recorded better, but it gives us an idea of how I thought the song should go. So originally it was kind of sounded Oasis-y, and now it sounds a little bit like it's got that drum and bass thing. And it's a little bit more Paul Weller-ish, I think, now sounding. So
let's hear it. Letters from Home.
Lesbians wait, but I like to feel the cotton slip on the
That's a really cool song. I love the melody and just the all-round feel of that. That's a really good tune.
Yeah, I suppose that would be a. I said I didn't do album tracks. That's more. That's like an album track, I suppose. Something you can discover.
Well, let's talk about your solo projects, because outside of the band, you have your George Harry's son solo tribute. You've had that going for a while, right?
Yeah, there was a couple of years ago. I was hanging out with these girls who were helping me, Ali and Diane, from England. And when I did the Beatles festivals early on, they said there's only really one tribute to George Harrison that we've seen, and it's a guy called Rick Allen, who's a friend of mine as well. Right. And so he had a tribute kind of to George, but he was very busy doing the Beatles thing. So then I just kind of like. I was thinking, well, I don't really know that many solo George stuff, so they kind of educated me. They gave me a lot of bootlegs and stuff like that, And then he said, yeah, there's a show that George did in '91 called the Rock Legends Tour, where he went to Japan, and that had all the great songs on that. He was scared at the time of doing this particular tour in America because John had been killed, and so he didn't want to come to America, which I think is a shame, But it had all the greatest songs on it. My Sweet Lord, Give Me Love, all those years ago. If I Needed Someone, I Want to Tell You. All of the best songs that you can think of George doing, they all did it on that. So I started with that show. I thought, well, I'll do George Harrison's dad. It's called Harold. Yep. And so I was trying to come up with a name for it. And then I saw the picture of George Harrison's dad, who obviously was an old Scouser. He looked out of place with these like paparazzi style photographs, and it was his birthday, and George had come over to wish his dad a happy birthday, and the press had taken a picture of him pouring a cup of tea.
He was a bus driver, his dad, I think. I think his dad was a bus driver in Liverpool. George's
He's
dad.
A bus driver. Yeah, I think George's he was a bus driver. Yeah, and, he'd worked as a lot of people did, like, what's it called when you go in and you actually do manual work straight away? It's like they have them here. I forgot what it's called, but basically you go in and learn your trade right away, right? And so George obviously made it big in music, but what happened was I noticed his dad was called Harry Harrison, and so I thought if Harold Harrison's friends were in work at the bus depot or depot, and they were talking, and one of them said, Harry's son's doing real well, or George is doing real well. Who George, Harry's son. George, and then belonging to Harry, and I thought George Harry's son.
I also love your live streams from your bathroom, Gav in the Lav, your Sunday night shows. Tune into them. You just recently introduced us to a brand new song, which you're going to play now, which you've just recently written, right?
This is one that people can say they've never heard a song that's written in 2021. Well, no, now you have. I came downstairs, and I was getting ready. If you look on Facebook for George Harry's son, exactly like that, you'll find me. I came down to kind of like get my studio ready because I've moved into the studio now. Yep. So I just picked up the guitar and I just came up with some chords. And you know what it's like. You can't plan a song. No. A song is ready when you're ready, and it just pops in and it's only there for a second. And that's what this happened. I picked up the guitar and it came out.
Well, you played this to me yesterday, and honestly, I can't get it on my mind. It's one of them songs, hits you straight away. Really catchy. And let's play this harmony.
In the misty morning rain, I find I'm all alone once again. If I can't see you, I can't be to blame. I saw a glimpse, then you were gone. I don't know how I'm to carry on.
Very, very catchy. That's a great tune, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, anthems. If you start at the beginning of a show and no one knows it, and you say, "I want everyone to go whoa," and just get the audience to do that a few times, when it actually happens, they'll be singing that right on the top. And
it's
the
clever.
good thing is that particular thing goes over all the chord changes. You know, so you can keep going. Whoa, it goes from the E to the A to the B, and it just sails along.
And the harmonies as well. Just show you, I mean, your solo stuff's great. You know, I've explained to everybody, the listeners, that how great the Fab Four show is. It really is unique. But your solo stuff, you do the George Harrison solo tributes apart from the band, and you've got your original stuff going on. Now, with the COVID pandemic really hit our industry hard, especially you guys who perform your shows across theatres all over. Right now, the theatres are not operating. The sound and light guys, the stagehands, all suffering. But you have been performing the virtual Fab Four shows, which your fans could purchase tickets and watch you guys online. Is that still an option right now? You're still doing them shows right now?
Yeah, we've been trying to just keep the lights on. You know, it's not making any money really. But you know, we have still as a business, you know, bills to pay for the studio and and everything that we have, and payroll and all the stuff that comes with a business. So you know, if the listeners go to thefab4.com, and you'll see that we have a Valentines show on February 14th. And I think it's at 5 p.m. Pacific Coast time. But all the information should be there. Go to thefab4.com and block out that Sunday. And also you can rent it for a couple of days afterwards. So if you miss the actual, you know, stream, you can get it for like a couple of days later. And I think, you know, if people, I'm trying to think of it. Andy, my brother's a police officer, and if he was like, if something happened and all the police officers couldn't work, you know, and I was doing all right, I think I'd like to give him some money and support in that respect, you know, and that's kind of what we're asking for. All the musicians that are live streaming right now, I know a lot of people think, oh, well, they're just musicians, but not only the musicians are suffering, but like, you know, lighting directors, sound engineers, greeters who put people in the theaters, bartenders, you know, we're trying to keep, you know, our foot in the door really with these live streams, you know, and keep people, you know, and a lot of people have been very good, you know, have supported us and kept you know, patting us on the back and trying to help us out in any way they can. So if people could, you know, jump in, it's not that expensive. It's only like $10. So, I mean, in English terms, that's like £4. You know?
Well, that's nothing for the show. You're going to see everybody. And so just tell them again, Gav, it's at thefab4.com. What's the link again?
So if you go to thefab4.com, that's our main page, and then you'll see it's under a streaming site called Stella. And so you click on that, and then it'll just walk you through it. It'll say like purchase tickets, and you purchase tickets, and then you get like a code. And then you you know, on the day you open up the box, you know, you open up the screen, and then I think you put your code in earlier on, and then it just starts playing. You'll see a countdown. It'll say 10 minutes before. So if you don't see that countdown, just click out of it, come back into it, and you'll see the countdown. When the countdown's moving, that means you're in the right place. So it's dead easy. A lot of people are scared at the beginning, and then they watch a show and they're like, oh, that was easy.
So thefab4.com, a site called Stella. Get your tickets there. Highly recommended. I've seen the show, and it's an incredible show. And these guys, it's unbelievable. So thefab4.com. Also follow Gavin on George Harry's son. Your Facebook page, that right? George Harry's son. Okay.
It's public page.
All right, brother. We've got one more song to play. This is a collaboration. I'm going to let you explain this one.
So I'm just sitting in my house. I get a message from my mate Joe Walmsley. I don't know if you know him. And he gives me a message and he goes, I've got this song. And the sound guy says it sounds like something off, you know, Cloud 9 by George Harrison. So I was thinking, do I know anyone who could add some slide and harmonies who were very George Harrison-esque? And I was like, I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone who could do it.
You certainly put your mark on it, and I appreciate it, because when I did me Scouse It in the Room album, it was on the album. And say John Maragalo said exactly what you just said. And then when we got you the track, you recorded it over in California for us. You put the slide guitar on, the great vocals, the harmonies, and you took some lead vocals as well. Let's play it for everybody. This is called Under Fire.
Seeking adventure and on the turn, about it, about something that's not your concern. Playing detective, trying to control the souls around you. You should really mind your own. What's this attraction intriguing you? This fascination reveals some kind of clue. I'm under fire, I don't know why. I could be dead and still you'd find a way to cry. A sad addiction you cannot fight. A strange amusement to spice up your non-existent life. And all the answers you seem to know, though you've been nowhere. No tales to tell, no past to show. What's this attraction intriguing you? This fascination reveals some kind of clue. I'm under fire, I don't know why. I could be dead and still you'd find a way to cry. Though I'm nobody's fool, I am yet to lose my cool. Despite these cold, unwanted views, who knows how long before my rage comes bursting through. I'm under fire. What's this attraction intriguing you? This fascination reveals some kind of clue. I'm under fire, I don't know why. I could be dead and still you'd find a way to cry. What's this attraction intriguing you? This fascination reveals some kind of clue. I'm under fire, I don't know why. I could be dead and still you'd find a way to cry.
Two Scousers there in harmony, and thanks for putting your mark on that song, man. It made the song so much better than it was. Gavin, it's been a pleasure, brother, having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time. Love to the family. Hope everything gets back to normal soon. Don't forget, folks, the fab4.com, and it's a site called Stella. Purchase them virtual tickets and watch the show online. Also, hit Gavin up on Facebook on George Harry's son. Gavin, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, mate. I appreciate all the time and effort that you do. And but the only problem I've got is that you didn't bring many curly whirlies from England when you went over last time. So don't even bother ringing me anymore ever again. I want curly whirlies.
I did, but I ate them all. It was a year ago. I'm picking
on the plane on the way over. Yeah. I can't wait to go to the Riverwalk in San Antonio. In fact, I won't even tell you that I'm going to be there. I'm just going to pop in and throw some stuff at you.
Curly whirlies.
No, I'll eat them.
Thank you so much, mate. Thanks for joining us. Absolute pleasure. Take it easy.
Mate.
Thank you, buddy.
Love you lots.
Thank you. Bye-bye. You too. Bye.